Commander Hyuk sat in his command chair, watching the glowing screen that showed signals from a distant planet. His large eyes studied the strange messages coming from the third world in this small solar system. The beings there looked different. From his kind, they had only 2 arms instead of tentacles, and their skin was smooth and pale. "Sir, look at this," Lieutenant Nara said, her purple tentacles dancing nervously as she pointed to the display. "These creatures are training for battle. They're showing each other how to fight and kill. Their weapons are very basic compared to ours, but they seem so violent." Hyuk felt sad watching the transmissions. For 300 years, his people had traveled through space, helping younger species avoid destroying themselves. They had seen it happen too many times. Smart beings who invented weapons before they learned wisdom. "These humans are just like the Korthons were 50 years ago," Hyuk said quietly. "Fighting each other instead of working together. We arrived too late to save the Korthons, but maybe we can help these ones." The signals showed human soldiers running through training courses, firing weapons, and practicing combat moves. To the peaceful Zephyrians, it looked like a species preparing for a terrible war that would wipe them out. Meanwhile, millions of miles away on Earth, Colonel Minho stood on the bridge of his command ship. The ocean stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with ships from different countries. The Pacific War Games happened every year, a chance for allied nations to practice working together. Phoenix Squadron returned to base. Dragon Fleet powered down weapon systems. Minho spoke into his radio. Around him, officers smiled and shook hands. The exercises had gone perfectly. Ships that had been pretending to fight each other now sailed peacefully side by side. "Sir, all units are reporting successful completion," Captain Seojin said, reading from his tablet. "No accidents, no problems. The new coordination protocols worked great." Minho nodded with satisfaction. These war games weren't about preparing to fight each other, they were about learning to fight together if any real threat ever appeared. Earth's nations had learned long ago that cooperation was stronger than conflict. Captain Jiwoo powered down the weapons on her destroyer ship. The Soul's Pride had performed beautifully during the exercises. Her crew had worked like a perfect team, following orders quickly and efficiently. "Another year, another successful drill," she said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Dong-soo. "I'm proud of how everyone performed today. Send my compliments to all department heads." She had no idea that far above Earth's atmosphere, alien sensors had been recording every moment of their training. The peaceful exercises meant to build friendship between nations had been misunderstood as preparation for devastating warfare. As the human ships headed home to their ports, families waiting to welcome them back, the Zeltharian fleet was already calculating jump coordinates. Commander Huck believed he was planning a rescue mission to save an innocent species from destroying itself. The greatest misunderstanding in galactic history was about to begin, and neither side knew what was coming. The space around Earth's moon suddenly rippled like water, and enormous alien ships appeared out of nowhere. Admiral Soo-jin was drinking her morning coffee in Luna Base's command center when the alarms started screaming. She nearly dropped her cup as she saw the massive vessels on her screens. "What in the world? ... She whispered, staring at ships that were easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest battleships. The alien vessels looked like giant metal whales, smooth and dark, with strange blue lights pulsing along their sides. They moved slowly, but deliberately, positioning themselves in perfect formation above the moon. "Ma'am, we're detecting 37 unknown vessels," reported Sergeant Kungman from his monitoring station. His voice was shaking slightly. "They just appeared from nowhere. Our sensors didn't pick up any approach." Soo-jin straightened her uniform and activated the communication system. This was the moment humanity had always wondered about, first contact with alien life. But something felt wrong about the way these ships had arrived unannounced. "Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Sujin, of Earth Defense Command, she said clearly into her microphone. You have entered our solar system without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose immediately. The response came after a long pause, and the voice speaking English sounded strange, like someone learning the language from old textbooks. Greetings, primitive humans of the third planet. We are the Zeltharian Confederation. We have traveled far to reach you. We come to save you from your violent nature. You must surrender all weapons to us now. We bring peace to your troubled species. Lieutenant Commander Tejo, who was monitoring the defense platforms orbiting Earth, suddenly shouted from his station. Admiral, they're attacking our satellites. No, wait, they're not destroying them. They're just ... shutting them down somehow. On the screens, they watched as bright blue beams shot out from the alien ships toward Earth's orbital defense stations. But instead of explosions, the human weapons simply went dark and stopped working. One by one, the platforms that protected Earth were being carefully disabled. Sir, they're using some kind of energy weapon that shorts out our electronics, Teo reported, sweat beading on his forehead. It's like they know exactly how to turn off our systems without breaking them. They're being ... careful. Sujin felt anger building in her chest as she realized what was happening. These aliens weren't trying to communicate or negotiate. They were treating humans like children who couldn't be trusted with dangerous toys. They think we're helpless animals, she said through gritted teeth. They're not here to talk with us. They're here to save us from ourselves, whether we want their help or not. The alien commander's voice came through the speakers again, still using that patronizing tone. Do not resist, humans. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. We will remove the tools of war from your possession. Soon you will understand that violence is not necessary. We have done this for many species across the galaxy. As more defense platforms went offline, Sujin realized that Earth was facing something completely unexpected, not an invasion meant to conquer them, but a rescue mission that nobody had asked for. The emergency meeting room in Geneva had never seen anything like this. Defense Minister Jae-soon walked quickly to the front of the room, his usually calm face showing deep worry lines. Around the large table sat representatives from every major nation on Earth, people who normally spent their time arguing about trade deals and border disputes. Today, they all had the same shocked expression. 12 hours ago, our species made first contact with alien life, Jae-sung began, his voice steady, despite the incredible situation. Unfortunately, they didn't come to shake hands. They came to take away our weapons and treat us like dangerous children who can't be trusted. The room erupted in angry voices. The president of Brazil slammed his fist on the table. The Prime Minister of Japan shook her head in disbelief. The representative from Nigeria stood up, shouting questions in multiple languages. General Hyjin stepped forward and pressed a button on her tablet. Suddenly, a three-dimensional map of space appeared floating above the table, showing tiny dots representing the alien ships positioned around Earth and the Moon. Here's what we're dealing with, she said, pointing to the largest dots. 37 ships, each one bigger than our largest aircraft carrier. Their weapons can shut down our electronics from thousands of miles away. They've already disabled most of our satellite defenses. But here's the interesting part, she continued, zooming in on tactical data. They're not trying to kill us. Every attack has been carefully designed to disable, not destroy. They're treating this like they're taking toys away from misbehaving children. Admiral Young-soo's face appeared on the large screen connecting from the Pacific Fleet Command Center. Behind him, officers were running back and forth, preparing ships for battle. Ministers, these aliens made a huge mistake. They think because our technology is older than theirs, we'll just roll over and surrender. They don't understand what humans do when someone attacks our home. The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed the meaning of his words. For all of human history, whenever one group tried to force another to submit, the result was always the same: Fierce resistance, Captain. Kyungsky stood on the bridge of her battlecruiser in reading the orders that had just come through from Earth Defense Command. Around her, sailors who had been doing routine patrols just hours ago were now preparing for humanity's first space war. "Attention all ships," she announced over the fleet communication system. "This is Captain Kingsuk. We have new orders from Earth Command. These aliens think they can come to our home, disable our defenses, and demand we surrender our weapons. They obviously don't know much about human history." Her crew smiled grimly as they checked their weapon systems. The ship's engines roared to life as they prepared to accelerate toward the alien fleet. "All vessels, this is Fleet Command," came the voice of Admiral Youngsu. "Battle stations, all ships. Today we show these aliens what happens when someone threatens Earth's children. Today they learn that humans don't surrender, we fight back." Within hours, Earth's military was mobilizing in a way not seen since the World Wars. The aliens had expected quick submission. Instead, they were about to face humanity's greatest strength, the refusal to give up when cornered. Engineer Borum crawled through the cramped interior of the alien shuttle, her flashlight illuminating strange curved walls covered in symbols that looked like flowing water. 3 days ago, this ship had been shooting at human vessels. Now it sat in pieces in a military hangar in South Korea, surrounded by Earth's best scientists and engineers. "Hand me that scanner," she called to her assistant, Dr. Minwoo. "I think I figured out how their shields work." Her clothes were covered in grease and alien fluid that glowed faintly blue. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, but her eyes were bright with excitement. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Instead of wires and circuits, everything seemed to be made of crystal-like materials that pulsed with energy. But Borum had always been good at solving puzzles, and this was the biggest puzzle of her life. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a hexagonal crystal panel. "Their shield generators create energy waves using mathematical patterns, but the patterns repeat every few seconds. If we can disrupt the sequence at just the right moment." She attached her human-made device to the alien crystal and pressed a button. The entire panel flickered and went dark. "You did it," Minwoo shouted. "You actually broke their shields." Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Major Sung-ho and his marine team were exploring a damaged alien warship that had crash-landed in the Australian desert. The ship was enormous inside, with corridors wide enough for 3 trucks to drive side by side. "These aliens must be giants," muttered Sergeant Hyun-woo as they moved through the ship's weapon storage area. The ceiling was at least 12 feet high, and everything was built for creatures much larger than humans. Sung-ho picked up one of the alien energy rifles, surprised by how heavy it felt. The weapon was beautifully designed, with smooth curves and no visible buttons or switches. When he held it correctly, symbols appeared on the side, glowing softly. "Sir, check this out," called Corporal Ji-hoon from across the room. "I found their instruction manuals." He was holding what looked like a crystal tablet that projected images into the air when touched, as Sung-ho studied the weapon designs. He started shaking his head. "These aliens have amazing technology, but terrible military thinking. Look, their energy rifles have no backup power source. If the main crystal fails, the weapon is useless, and there's no manual override system." He pointed to various parts of the weapon. "Everything is automated. The gun thinks for itself. But what happens when you're in a situation the gun wasn't programmed for? Humans learned thousands of years ago that you always need a backup plan. High above Earth, Commander." Huck stared at his battle reports with growing confusion. His flagship's command center, which had been built to coordinate peaceful rescue missions, was now trying to track an enemy that seemed to learn from every encounter. "Sir, the humans have somehow figured out how to penetrate our shields," Lieutenant Nara reported, her tentacles now a dark purple color that indicated extreme stress. 3 more of our ships have been damaged by their primitive missiles." Hugh couldn't understand it. Their technology is centuries behind ours. How are they adapting so quickly? That's not the worst part, sir, Nara continued, her voice trembling. Our reconnaissance shows they're not just copying our weapons, they're making them better. Fleet Admiral Chanwu walked across the bridge of the Terran Vengeance, humanity's first ship built with both human and alien technology. The bridge looked different from traditional Earth warships. Alien crystal displays glowed alongside human computer screens, and the walls hummed with energy from hybrid power systems that no one had imagined possible just weeks ago. Admiral, all fleet commanders are standing by, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Jamin, around Earth. Hundreds of human ships were preparing for something that had never happened before. Humanity was about to take the fight. Beyond their own solar system, Chanwu activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice reaching every human vessel from the asteroid belt to Earth's orbit. This is Admiral Chanwu, to all fleet commanders. For too long, these aliens have treated us like children who needed to be saved from ourselves. Today, we show them that Earth's children don't need saving, we fight back. The massive fleet began moving in perfect coordination. Human ships that had been built for defending Earth were now equipped with alien shield technology and energy weapons. But the humans had made improvements, backup systems, redundant controls, and manual overrides that the peaceful Zeltharians had never thought necessary. Meanwhile, Captain Soyoung was leading her fighter squadron through a dangerous asteroid field near Mars. Her pilots were some of Earth's best, trained to fly in the worst conditions imaginable. Today, they were hunting alien ships that were trying to escape to the outer solar system. Red Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader. She spoke into her helmet radio. Enemy contacts detected at 2 o'clock. 3 alien frigates attempting to reach jump distance. They're running scared, but we're not letting them get away. Her fighter, a sleek, human design now equipped with alien energy cannons, accelerated through the spinning rocks. The other pilots followed her lead, their ships moving like a pack of wolves closing in on prey. Phoenix Leader, this is Red 5, came the voice of Lieutenant Dongyan. I've got a lock on the trailing ship. Their shields are fluctuating. Looks like they're overloading their systems, trying to run. Soyoung smiled inside her helmet. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never learned to fight while retreating. Human pilots had been practicing combat maneuvers in dangerous conditions for decades. All fighters engage at will, she ordered. Show them what happens when you mess with Earth. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human fighters, smaller and more agile than the alien ships, swarmed around the fleeing vessels like angry hornets. They used the asteroids as cover, appearing from behind rocks, to fire quick bursts, before disappearing again. On his flagship, Commander Yuk watched his tactical display with growing horror as more red dots, representing his ships, disappeared from the screen. His people had been traveling through space for centuries, spreading peace and helping younger species. They had never encountered anything like humanity's fierce determination. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can retreat, Lieutenant Nara reported, her tentacles now almost black with stress. The humans are hunting us with tactics we don't understand. They're using our own weapons, but they've somehow made them more effective. Hugh stared at the display, showing human ships, pursuing his fleeing fleet across multiple star systems. The species he had come to save was now chasing his people across the galaxy, and they showed no signs of stopping. Ambassador Krell sat in his luxurious office on the Vorthen homeworld, surrounded by floating holographic displays that showed news from across the galaxy. His forearms moved nervously as he read the latest reports, his blue-scaled face growing paler with each message. This cannot be possible, he whispered to himself, reading the transmission from a Zeltharian survivor ship for the 3rd time. The message described something that had never happened in recorded Galactic history, A peaceful rescue mission had somehow triggered a devastating war. His assistant, a young Vorthan named Zeph, rushed into the office, carrying more data tablets. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from 17 different sectors. These humans have already taken control of 3 star systems that belonged to the Zul, and they're still advancing." Krell's hands shook as he activated the galaxy-wide communication network. For over 2,000 years, the various species of the galaxy had lived in relative peace. Wars were rare, usually small disputes over mining, rights that were settled through negotiation. Nothing like this had ever happened. Emergency Council meeting. He broadcast to the leaders of 43 different species. "A new threat has emerged from the Outer Rim. We need to share information immediately." Across the galaxy, ancient libraries and data archives were being searched frantically. Species that had not thought about military tactics for centuries were suddenly trying to remember how their ancestors had fought wars. Old documents were pulled from storage, describing legends of aggressive species from high-gravity worlds. The Crystalline Collective, a species made of living gems, discovered references in their oldest records. "There are warnings here," their speaker transmitted to the Emergency Council. "Our ancestors wrote about bipedal species that refused to submit even when facing superior technology. They called them Death World Warriors, beings who evolved on planets so dangerous that fighting became part of their nature." On Earth, General Hygen was reviewing the intelligence reports in her command center. The information coming from their expanding operations was almost unbelievable. Human forces hadn't even reached most of these alien territories, but surrender offers were already flooding in. "Ma'am, we've received formal surrender documents from the Benthic Federation," reported Colonel Taeyong, barely able to keep the amazement out of his voice. "They're offering to provide us with star charts and supply bases. They specifically mention that they wish to avoid the fate that befell the Zeltharians." Hygen looked at the list of species that were voluntarily surrendering. 12 different civilizations, and none of them have even seen our ships yet. She activated the secure communication link to Defense Minister Jae-sung in Geneva. "Sir, you need to see these reports. Half the galaxy is surrendering to us, and the other half is building emergency defense fleets. Word of our capabilities is spreading faster than we can travel." Jae-sung reviewed the data from his office, a slight smile crossing his face for the first time since this crisis began. "It seems the galaxy is learning something important about humanity. We might be young compared to these ancient civilizations, but we're not weak." The irony was not lost on him. The Zeltharians had come to Earth, believing they were saving a primitive species from destroying itself. Instead, they had introduced the galaxy to a force unlike anything they had ever encountered. Humans who refused to be saved by anyone. The peaceful galaxy was about to change forever. And it was all because someone had misunderstood a training exercise. The peaceful Zeltharian home system had never seen anything like it. For 3,000 years, their beautiful blue and green planets had existed in harmony, surrounded by defense stations that were designed more for directing traffic than fighting wars. Today, the space around their worlds was filled with something terrifying, an armada of human warships. Fleet Admiral Chen Wu stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as hundreds of human vessels emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. The ships were a mixture of Earth's original designs and new hybrid vessels built with captured alien technology. Each one bristled with weapons that the humans had improved far beyond their original specifications. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Captain Sung-min from the communications station. 237 vessels in position. The entire home fleet is here." Chanwu activated the system-wide broadcast, his voice reaching every Zeltharian ship, station, and planet in the system. "This is Fleet Admiral Chanwu of the Terran Defense Force. 6 weeks ago, you attacked our colonies without warning. You disabled our defenses and demanded our surrender. You treated us like children who needed to be saved from ourselves. Now you will face the consequences of that decision. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, Commander Huck felt despair wash over him. His once mighty vessel was barely functional, held together by emergency repairs and the dedication of his exhausted crew. Around the system, the remnants of his fleet ships that had once been symbols of peaceful exploration were hopelessly outnumbered. "Sir, we're receiving targeting signals from over 50 human ships," Lieutenant Nara reported, her tentacles trembling with fear. "They've surrounded us completely." Hugh activated his communication system, broadcasting on all human frequencies. His voice was filled with desperation as he tried to explain what his people now realized had been a terrible mistake. "Human commanders, please listen to me," he pleaded. "There has been a catastrophic misunderstanding. My people came to your system because we thought you were in danger. We intercepted transmissions that showed your species engaged in warfare. We believed we were rescuing you from destroying yourselves." Captain Jiwoo, now commanding a battle group of 12 human warships, listened to the alien's explanation with cold anger. She remembered the day the aliens had appeared above Luna Base, destroying humanity's carefully built defenses without even asking for permission. "Commander Huck," she responded, her voice cutting across space like ice. "You say you came to help us, but you never asked if we wanted your help. You attacked our colonies, disabled our defenses, and demanded we surrender our weapons. You helped yourself to our territory. Now we're going to help ourselves to your surrender." The Zeltharian homeworlds watched in terror as human ships moved into position around their planets. The siege had begun, and it was unlike anything the peaceful galaxy had ever witnessed. Humanity's war machine was operating at full capacity, supply ships bringing ammunition, hospital ships treating the wounded, and command vessels coordinating attacks with precision that amazed even the humans themselves. On the largest planet, billions of civilians looked up at their sky, now filled with human warships. Emergency broadcasts played constantly, telling people to stay in their homes and avoid any actions that might be seen as hostile. Elder Diplomat Tulvar, the most senior Zeltharian leader, watched from his government building as human fighters flew patrol routes over his capital city. These were not the primitive beings his people had expected to save. These were warriors from a world that had taught them that survival meant fighting back when threatened. The irony was overwhelming. The Zeltharians had come to prevent humanity from destroying itself. Instead, they had awakened something that was now poised to change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The communication came through on a frequency that no human had ever heard before. Elder Diplomat Zotul had spent weeks learning human languages, studying every broadcast and transmission she could find. Her species, the ancient Catherians, had been mediating galactic disputes for over 5,000 years, but they had never encountered anything like this crisis. "Humans of Earth," her voice crackled through the static, speaking in perfect English, with only a slight accent. "This is Elder Diplomat Zotul of the Galactic Council. I am transmitting from a neutral vessel between your fleet and the Zeltharian homeworlds. Please, you must cease your attack immediately. I have critical information about how this war began." Admiral Yang-Su was in the middle of coordinating the final assault on the Zeltharian capital when the transmission reached his flagship. He had been preparing to give the order that would end this conflict once and for all. His finger hovered over the attack authorization button as he listened to the alien diplomat's words. "All units, hold fire," he commanded, his voice carrying across the entire human fleet. "I repeat, all units, hold fire. We have an incoming diplomatic transmission that requires immediate analysis." In the communications center, General Biorum was working frantically to decode the data packets that accompanied the diplomat's message. Her team of linguists and intelligence experts had been studying alien technology for weeks, but this was different. These weren't weapon specifications or tactical information. These were historical records and communication logs. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," Biorum called out, her voice filled with shock. The alien diplomat is sending us the original transmission that started this whole conflict. It's our own broadcast. Young-Soo moved quickly to her station, where holographic displays showed the intercepted transmission that had triggered the Zeltharian response. There, clear as day, was the footage from Earth's Pacific War Games, the very training exercises that Colonel Minho had been conducting weeks ago. "My God," Young-Soo whispered, as he watched human ships practicing combat maneuvers. Heard the military communications about weapon systems and tactical formations. This is what they saw. They intercepted our training exercises and thought we were preparing for real war. The pieces of the puzzle began falling into place with horrible clarity. The Zeltharians had seen human military forces practicing coordination, testing weapons, and running combat scenarios. To a peaceful species that hadn't fought a war in centuries, it must have looked like a civilization on the brink of destroying itself. Bioram continued, analyzing the data, her face growing pale as she understood the full scope of the misunderstanding. "Sir, their records show they've done this before. They call themselves Species Guardians. They travel the galaxy looking for civilizations that might destroy themselves and intervene to prevent wars." Across the communication channels, Commander Huck's voice came through, broken and filled with grief. His once proud flagship was now barely functional, floating dead in space among the wreckage of his fleet. Admiral Young-Soo Huck said, his words translated by the alien diplomat, "We thought your people were preparing to destroy each other. The transmissions we intercepted showed your military forces engaged in what appeared to be preparation for massive warfare. We believed we were saving you from repeating the mistakes that have destroyed so many species throughout galactic history." The silence that followed was deafening. On ships throughout the human fleet, officers and crew members stared at their screens in disbelief. The greatest war in galactic history had begun because aliens had misunderstood a peaceful training exercise. Admiral Young-Soo closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the revelation. Both sides had acted according to their nature, the Zeltharians trying to prevent what they thought was an impending catastrophe, and humans fighting back against what they saw as an unprovoked attack. The truth was more tragic than either side could have imagined. The Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Nexus Prime had never hosted anything like this meeting. Representatives from over 60 different species sat in carefully arranged sections, their various forms of communication, devices translating dozens of languages in real time. But all eyes were focused on the human delegation at the center of the room. Ambassador Jiwoo walked slowly to the speaking platform, her simple black uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the other galactic representatives. 6 months ago, most of these beings had never heard of humanity. Today, they watched her with a mixture of respect, fear, and curiosity. "Honored representatives of the galactic community," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. 6 months ago, humanity was an unknown species living quietly in a small corner of the galaxy. Today, we stand before you not as conquerors, but as a people who have learned that sometimes you must fight to earn the right to be heard. She paused, looking around the assembly at faces that belonged to creatures from worlds she was still learning to pronounce. "Humanity accepts our place in this galactic community. We want to trade with you, learn from you, and share our knowledge with you. But let this be perfectly clear. We will defend ourselves and our allies without hesitation if anyone threatens us again." In the Zeltharian section, Commander Huck stood up slowly. His once pristine uniform now bore the scars of battle, and his proud bearing had been tempered by painful experience. When the translation of his words came through, many in the assembly shifted uncomfortably. "I speak as someone who made the mistake of underestimating humanity," Hugh said, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had learned a hard lesson. "My people thought we were saving a primitive species from destroying itself. Instead, we discovered that humans don't need saving, they need respecting." He gestured toward the human delegation. These beings came from a world so dangerous that warfare became part of their survival instinct. But they also showed us something else. When the fighting was over and the truth was revealed, they chose forgiveness over revenge. The galaxy must never forget either lesson. From her office on Luna Base, General Hyjin watched the ceremony through live broadcast while reviewing the new defense protocols on her desk. The documents outlined humanity's new role as a galactic power, complete with mutual defense treaties, trade agreements, and joint research projects. Colonel Park, how are the new recruits adapting to alien technology training? She asked her aide, who was reviewing reports from training facilities across Earth. Better than expected, ma'am, Colonel Park replied. It seems humans have a natural talent for adapting foreign technology to our needs. The Zeltharian instructors are amazed at how quickly our engineers improve their designs. Hyjin smiled as she looked out the window at Luna Base's expanded facilities. New construction was happening everywhere. Joint human-alien research labs, expanded shipyards, and diplomatic quarters for the growing number of alien species wanting to establish relationships with humanity. The irony was not lost on her. The Zeltharians had come to prevent humanity from developing advanced weapons. Instead, their intervention had accelerated human technological development by centuries and established Earth as a major galactic military power back on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Gi Wu concluded her speech to thunderous applause from species that had once feared humanity's rapid expansion. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, she said, but it's also dangerous enough that sometimes peaceful species need warriors to stand beside them. Humanity is ready to be those warriors, as long as we're treated as partners, not children. As the assembly dispersed, representatives from dozens of worlds approached the human delegation with offers of friendship, trade deals, and alliance proposals. The species that had once cowered in fear were now eager to have Earth as an ally. The mistaken call to Earth had indeed awakened something the galaxy would never forget, not just humanity's capacity for war, but their ability to forgive former enemies and build new friendships on the foundation of mutual respect.